Okay, we can get started. When speaking, please pull your microphones forward. I'd like to welcome everyone to the February 26, 2024 meeting of the Town of Niskayuna Planning Board and Zoning Commission. Ms. Bergami, would you please call the roll?
Mr. Laflamme?
Here.
Ms. Strang?
Here.
Ms. Blasky?
Here.
Ms. Gold?
Present.
Chairman Walsh?
Here. We get everybody? Did you get it?
Ms. Gomes?
Here.
All right. Oh, here. Okay. So we have the minutes for approval from the February 12th, 2024 meeting. Can I have a motion to approve those minutes?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Strang for approval. Do I have a second? Okay,
So moved.
Seconded by Mr. Laflamme. Corrections or changes to the minutes?
Yes, Chairman, it's line 306. I think it was attributed to Ms. Gomes, but it was actually my comment. It was a question to the applicant.
Okay, so it should change Ms. Gomes to Ms. Belofsky.
Correct.
Belofsky? Okay. I think that's pretty straightforward. So,
We can do that, 306.
yeah, we can just make that change. Any other corrections or comments to the minutes? I have none. No? Okay, all those in favor of approval of the minutes with that minor change, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed or abstentions? Okay. Hearing or seeing none, the minutes are approved for the February 12th, 2024 meeting. We have a public hearing tonight. The public hearing is for 2690 Balltown Road. There's an application for a site plan review for construction of a new building requiring a height variance. That's a DAC building at General Electric, Vernova. Ms. Bergami, would you please read the notice?
Notice is hereby given that pursuant to the code of the Town of Niskayuna, New York, and the applicable provisions of the town law of the state of New York, a public hearing will be held by the Planning Board and Zoning Commission of the Town of Niskayuna in the Town Board Meeting Room at 1 Niskayuna Circle on the 26th day of February 2024 at 7 p.m. to consider an application from Corey Whalen, agent for GE Vernova at 2690 Balltown Road, for construction of a new building requiring a height variance in the town of Niskayuna, tax parcel ID number 40.00-1-45.31. The property is located within the IR Research and Development Zoning District. A copy of the application for site plan review will be available for inspection at the Planning Department in the Niskayuna Town Hall and can be reviewed at the town website under the Public Hearing tab and will be shown electronically during the public hearing. If you wish to express an opinion regarding the public hearing, you may do so at the above-mentioned time and place. If you cannot be present, you may request a virtual login to the meeting by emailing lrobertson@niskayuna.org or calling 518-386-4531. Or you may set forth your opinion in a letter which will be made part of the permanent record. Please note there is a 5-minute time limit for each speaker at the public hearing, and submitted letters will not be read out loud at the public hearing, but such letters will be included in the minutes and added to the record. The Planning Board and Zoning Commission of the Town of Niskayuna will hear all persons interested during the aforementioned public hearing. By order of the Planning Board of the Town of Niskayuna, New York, Kevin A. Walsh, Chairman, Planning Board and Zoning Commission.
Okay, thank you. And I'll ask Mr. Dumas, the representative of the applicant, please come forward and he'll do a brief summary of the project before we open the floor to the public.
Thank you very much. My name's Charles Dumas. I'm an attorney. I am with the law firm of Lemry Chrysler, and I represent GE Vernova in the application. I have with me this evening Peter Lilholt from CT Mail, who was the civil engineer who did the plans that you have received. And I also have with me Carl Platt, who is the director of facilities in relation to this project. The address of the project is 2690 Balltown Road. This is a 195-acre parcel that has a separate gated entrance from Balltown Road. This was subdivided from the remainder of the GRC back in November of last year. It's presently improved by 2 buildings. One is the Research and Learning Center, which is 78,500 square feet, and an office building, which is 22,500 square feet. The proposed building is 27,690 square feet. This is in the IR zone. The purpose of the building is to prove up technology that was developed at the GRC for direct air capture and to move it from a 1X mode to a 10X mode. The building itself will be 54 feet tall. Given that this is the IR zone, there's a maximum of 35 feet in height applicable in that zone, so we will need a variance. A variance application has been made to the Zoning Board of Appeals. We will be appearing there on March 20 in relation to that application. We believe it's reasonably complete. Interestingly enough, the high bay building that's currently at the site now is 64 feet tall. The proposed building will be 54 feet, which is 10 feet less. The current building is barely visible from the bike path and certainly not visible at all from Balltown Road, River Road, or even the nearest residences. So it's believed that the 54 feet in height will be quite appropriate for the building, and hopefully the zoning board will see it that way. We also have, as part of our application, a waiver for parking. Interestingly, there's several of the buildings on the site now are mostly laboratory space, which is not heavily occupied, and so therefore there's not a huge number of employees associated with the properties. I think right now there's only 160 employees, and there's an existing 337 parking spaces. There's only 335 required for the existing facilities based upon the town code. And so there's 2 extra spaces now. For the new building, there would need to be 93 spaces. So we're asking for a waiver of 91. We have submitted last week a plan by CT Mail indicating that those spaces could easily be provided around the exterior of the building on the south exposure and southeast exposure of the building. So we're suggesting that we show those in the plans for purposes of bank parking if the planning board is inclined to grant the waiver. We expect to be back to the CAC, Conservation Advisory Council, on March 6, and we're hoping to receive at that time a recommendation in SECRA. There were several items that came out of our last meeting and our appearance there. I addressed those in writing in an email, but we'll bring those to the attention of the CAC when we're there on March 6. Are there any questions?
No, thank you.
Okay.
And I'd just like to mention for the public, before we hear any comments, is that under new business tonight, we'll be talking about the required recommendation from this board to the Zoning Board of Appeals regarding the 19-foot height variance required. This board will make a recommendation to ZBA tonight. Okay. With that said, the public hearing for 2690 Balltown Road for GE for the DAC building is now open. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding the public hearing, please come to the microphone, state your name and address for the record, and we'll listen to what you have to say. Public hearing is open.
I'm Gail King, resident at 1633 Balltown Road, property owner on Crescent and Knott Street in Niskayuna. Thank you for my 5 minutes to speak on behalf of my property in Niskayuna. Tonight, you are addressing 2690 Balltown Road for a 19-foot height variance for a new building. I have these questions. With this 19-foot height variance, we will need a new fire station, a new fire truck, and who will pay for this? Who will get the tax breaks? Who will pay for the widening roads and then their upkeep? Ray Gillen, town planners, town board, what do we really gain being bigger than Global Foundries? We don't have that kind of space. We are already built out town with only options to build up. I ask, how much will GE Verona cost the people of Niskiuna. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. King.
Good evening. Ray Gillen. I'm Commissioner of Economic Development and Planning for Schenectady County. I'm also the chairman of the Metroplex Development Authority. Appreciate the planning board looking at this tonight and hopefully making a referral to the ZBA. GE, as you all know, is splitting into three companies: aviation, healthcare, and Vernova. We're really blessed because I think they're the biggest taxpayer in town, pay more than $7 million a year in property taxes at this site. And we're very fortunate that all three GE businesses have decided to keep their R&D programs and efforts in Niskuna at this site. That was not a certainty, so we're very, very fortunate that that happened. And GE Vernova, the formerly GE Power, is spinning off as a separate company this April. And for them to be here proposing a new investment in Niskuna right out of the box as a new company really says something about how valuable Niskuna is to GE, how important it is. And this is going to be research on cutting edge green technology that'll have applications around the globe. And we'll all be able to say it was done right here in Niskuna. So it's very, very exciting. This is a great smart growth project. This site is underutilized now. As I mentioned last month, we're marketing some of the space on this campus. It's not visible from Balltown Road. It's smart growth. The parking is already there. It's a small addition to the building. There's no impact on roads because these are all GE company roads that go from Balltown Road into the site. There's been no taxpayer concessions of any kind offered on this project. So that comment, I'm not sure where that's coming from. All of the costs associated with the project will be borne by GE. There are no local incentives involved. This is a very cutting-edge R&D program that's going to bring visitors and going to bring talent here. And this is really an underutilized part of the campus. And it'll be given new life with this new technology, this new green energy technology that'll be developed and perfected right here in Niskuna. I can't think of anything more exciting. It's going to directly help deal with global warming, air pollution, all of the things that are really important to our country and our community. So we appreciate the time and the attention, the level of details of the submissions from GE and the great work of Laura and the boards to review this project expeditiously. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, public hearing, GE still open? Anyone wishing to be heard? Laura, do you know if we have anybody online that want to speak?
We don't have anybody online and no submitted comments.
Okay. Okay, last call for the public hearing for GE then before I close public hearing. All right, seeing or hearing no one for the public hearing, I'll close the public hearing. Thank you for your comments. We'll move right to privilege of the floor. Anyone wishing to be heard regarding any planning and zoning matters in the town of Niskuna, please come forward and state your name and address for the record. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is Michael Scribia-Tennis, 914 Morgan Avenue. Sorry I missed last meeting. It was a lovely resolution. I hope it was a unanimous vote. I don't remember seeing the results. So I want to just thank everybody for particularly Laura, Clark Henry, and Alana Finnan for their incredible public service. It's a great board. You're really diligent, smart people that work here, and your commitment to the fidelity of law and to public service is worth mentioning. So I want to thank the chairman for having such a strange hobby, working every other weekend, reading all weekend long. You should find better use of your time, Mr. Chairman. Anyways, we're delighted and lucky to have you as a committed citizen of our town. I just want to make one passing comment before we go. I just want to thank, under the leadership of the chair and members of the board, your commitment to looking at more diverse, more dense projects will be required for the rest of the time you're on this board. Unfortunately, our attachment to R1 zoning, of which I'm a resident of an R1 zone house, is fleeting, and the future holds more density, more common interest ownership, more multifamily in order to address not only our environmental situation in our world. We know it's a very expensive way to live, but also racial injustice, issues of equity. So I want to applaud the board for its continuing commitment to look at creative ways to create density and to look at projects that are compatible, but also understanding that the future will look very different for Niskuna in the next 30 years. So thank you very much I really enjoyed my time on the board, and I wish you all well.
Thank you, Mr. Scribia-Tennis. We appreciate your comments. Have a good night. Welcome to stick around too, you know. Okay, privilege of the floor. Anybody else would like to speak? Privilege of the floor? Any planning and zoning matters? Again, Laura, anybody online or any comments received for privilege of the floor?
No, nothing online.
Okay. All right, with that said, no one else wishing to be heard, we'll close privilege of the floor. Thank you. We'll move on to unfinished business. We have no unfinished business tonight, so we'll go right to new business. We got a couple items under new business. The first being a recommendation to zoning board of appeals regarding 2890 Balltown Road. And that's, as you just heard during summary for the public hearing, it's a recommendation regarding the construction of the new DAC, was a air capture building requiring a 19-foot height variance. So this board will make a recommendation tonight, and that'll go forward to the zoning board of appeals. Zoning Board of Appeals, as the applicant stated, on 3/20/24, they'll have a public hearing, and everyone will have the opportunity to be heard again at the Zoning Board of Appeals meeting. Mr. Dumas, do you want to say anything about the height variance or?
Yes, just briefly, the 54-foot height is about the minimum that could be accommodated based upon the roof design and the interior needs of the building. Much of these research facilities, the shape of the building, the height of the building is dictated by the activity inside. In this particular case, there's a need for what's called a bridge crane to move apparatus within the building. And as I say, it's the roof design is the absolute minimum height that can be accommodated with the bridge crane inside.
Okay, so what I'm going to do next is I'll read the notice and we'll make the recommendation. And after we make the recommendation, then we'll have this, since you're on the agenda now, we'll just get an update of where things stand with the planning office and with the applicant. And we'll talk about that after we make this recommendation, okay? So what we need to do is take a look at section 220-17, that's the height variance regulations. No building or structure shall exceed a height of 35 feet above the average finished grade adjoining the building unless otherwise specified in this chapter. The finished grade of artificial berms or similar earthen structures created for insulation or other purpose adjacent to building shall be disregarded in the determination of average finished grade. As proposed, the building is 54 feet high above the average finished grade. Therefore, a 19-foot height variance is required. If it's okay with the board, I'll take the lead on making the recommendations. Is that all right? So effect on comprehensive plan. My view is there's no effect on the comprehensive plan. It's consistent with the comprehensive plan. In fact, page 74 states so, and it was included in our agenda statement. And since the code, our zoning code does allow for area variance, my recommendation is that there's no effect on the comprehensive plan. Is there any other comments regarding that?
I have a question, and maybe I've misinterpreted this. As it stands right now, it's currently higher. Am I correct?
There's a building that's currently higher.
Okay, there
Yeah.
is one there that's currently
Right.
higher, but the redevelopment will exceed what our
We're
code is.
correct. The new building will exceed the 35-foot.
But it won't be as high as what's currently there.
That's what,
Okay,
applicant said.
thank you.
okay? So my recommendation is no effect. Is there any other comments? If there's no comments, all those that concur that there's no effect on the comprehensive plans, just do a show of hands. No effect. That's unanimous. Okay. Suitability for use in the area proposed. I'm going to state that it's suitable for the reasons basically summarized in the agenda statement and by the applicant. It's basically 2,200 feet off of Balltown Road. All views provided by the applicant show no apparent visual effect or impact from Balltown Road and minimal impact from the bike path. It's has less impact than the previous approved cryogenic building we approved near River Road, which was never built, and it's less than the current building on site. There's a building on site that exceeds, as we just discussed, the 54 feet. So my view is that it's a special need. It's in the IR zoning district, so it's zoned appropriately and it's consistent. So my view is that's suitable. And any comments on that? I agree.
I agree with that. And I believe that we had previously approved a wind turbine that was going to be even higher than the existing building. I could not find it in my notes. I didn't have time for extensive search. I think that was going to be over 100 feet.
Okay.
So And again, it is that industrial research area, so.
Yep. Anybody else? Okay, so the recommendation that's suitable, all those that agree it's suitable, please do so with show of hands. Okay, that's unanimous. All right. And the recommendation of ZBA, the recommendation is that the ZBA approve the requested area variance for height for this application. All those that concur, that the ZBA grant the area variance, and that's again unanimous. Okay, so Laura, I know you or Clark will put that together. I'll be glad to look it over again. That'll be forwarded on to the ZBA when they take action on March 20th. Okay? As far as the project goes, maybe Mr. Dumas, I don't know if we have some other couple things to talk about. I think you mentioned that town designated engineer. I know, Laura, you've been on vacation. Have we received anything from the town designated engineer?
I know he was reviewing it. I didn't see anything. Did you see anything, Clark?
No, he is reviewing it, but we have not received anything yet.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Okay.
I just wanted to make sure that we received comments, on a basis that CT-Mail could react to them, that's all.
Right, right. And I know you mentioned an email where you responded to the Conservation Advisory Council. I don't think that was included in our packet. Maybe I missed it.
That was an email that was sent on Friday, so
was on
it probably
Friday?
didn't make
Okay.
it.
So we'll get that out to the board, Laura, please also take a look at in anticipation of a resolution, okay? Any other comments from the boards or concerns regarding this application? Thoughts Thoughts about the waivers for parking?
Yeah, here's the drawing that shows where the bank parking can be built. As a planner, I definitely think that our code requires over parking, like Mr. Scrubby has just mentioned on density. We also have negative environmental impacts from the amount of parking that we require. So
Correct.
I'm definitely in favor of.
No, I agree. I mean, if they're gonna, as long as they show it and it's available, and, with the bank parking, if there is a need, you don't have to make it all. You can, incrementally put some in to make sure it satisfies any potential future needs.
Yeah,
And-
the point here is that the use of the buildings at the Research and Learning Center is mostly laboratory space. It's not, it's not like maybe
Office.
an insurance
Yeah.
company that has many employees in cubicles.
Yep.
It just doesn't work that way. Over half of the space in the existing learning center is laboratory space, and nearly all of the space in the proposed DAC building would be laboratory space. We're only looking to add about 10, 12 employees. So I think there would be
Yeah.
more than adequate
No, I
parking there.
agree. And in the other, obviously environmentally, as Laura mentioned, less blacktop is less impervious surface. And,
That was very
you know.
appealing to the CAC.
yep.
Yeah.
Yep. But I think it's important that we all kind of concur with the waiver, because if we don't, the applicant would have an opportunity to go to the zoning board of appeals to request the area variance for parking. So is everybody okay with the waiver for parking, as long as they show the bank parking?
Absolutely.
Any comments?
I'm on board with the current zoning. If that zoning changes, then I think everything would have to be looked at separately.
If the zone changes, it would be grandfathered in based on the waiver.
Well, that could be the problem. And that's my only concern with this.
Yeah.
I don't see that as likely, but I have to note my concern about it.
Okay,
Yeah.
because you couldn't make a recommendation. You couldn't grant a waiver condition on the existing zoning.
And here's my view, is that even if something were to change there that would require additional parking, you're running a business, you're going to make the parking so that people, your employees have a place to go. So I don't see a problem.
And the plus is they have the space to do
And they
it.
got the place to do it. Okay, so the general feedback is we support the waiver for the resolution. All right, and one other thing we talked about, and I think this was in, at least Mr. DiArpino mentioned this to me in an email. In the agenda statement said there was no wastewater, but the short EAF states that there is, wastewater, because there will be bathrooms or at least a bathroom in this addition.
Yeah, it's a very modest amount, I think, to service the restrooms. I think there's a small food prep area. I don't know that we're looking at any more than, say, 175 to 180 gallons per day.
All right, very minimal.
Very minimal.
Okay,
Chairman, do we want to state, Clark and we can get something in writing from the fire department, but we have existing buildings over that height, and
Yep.
we do not need, to my knowledge, we do not need any additional firefighting infrastructure.
Right.
And you had mentioned recently we approved a higher building with the fire district one's input. So we'll make sure to get something in writing from Dale. But I did not see that actually
No, thanks for reminding
requiring
me.
any additional
And
infrastructure.
it was also sent to the fire department for their
Mhm,
review.
But just to get, so everybody's on the same page,
Yep.
Clerk and I can see if we can get him to send an email to us.
Okay.
And Laura, just to add a little more detail to that, that not only did we send it to the fire chief, but he did respond and acknowledge that he had received it. So I know he looked at it and did not express any concern.
Yeah, if we can't fight a fire for this building, we're in doo-doo with the GE Global Research, since there's 4 wings that exceed 5 stories each over there. So I don't expect a problem. You know. All right, but we'll make sure that we hear back from the fire chief just to confirm that, okay? All right, and the only other item I think I have is that suggests that we call for a tentative resolution for our next meeting, which is March 11th. And there will be a condition that the zoning board of appeals grant the area variance for the height. If they do not grant the area variance, or for some reason that meeting is adjourned without any action taken, then we'll table the resolution or pull the resolution for the March 11th meeting. Is everybody okay with that?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a tentative resolution for March 11th meeting. All right,
Okay, thank you very much.
sure, thank you.
Yep.
All right. We have another resolution tonight, Resolution 2024-08, resolution for site plan approval for a tenant change to Be Inspired, a home gift and garden shop at 2219 Knott Street. And I'm going to summarize the resolution, but I'm also going to start at the, regarding the waiver required for signage, okay? Whereas Chapter 220, 48.4 signs, E minimum performance criteria number 9, number of signs states the following: a maximum of 1 facade sign per use is permitted, except for a use fronting on 2 streets that may have 1 sign on each building front. As proposed in this application, 2 facade signs will exist on the Knott Street facade. Therefore, a waiver is required for 1 additional facade sign, 2 facade signs total on a Knott Street facade. And that's the signage in the windows of this application. Whereas the board has carefully reviewed the proposal and by this resolution does set forth its decision hereon. Now, therefore, be it hereby resolved that the Planning Board and Zoning Commission has determined that the proposed sign waiver as described above would have a minimum negative effect on aesthetics and compatibility with neighborhood character. And be it further resolved, the Planning Board and Zoning Commission does hereby grant said waiver to allow for signage as described above. And be it further resolved, the Planning Board and Zoning Commission finds the above referenced site plan meets the requirements of the zoning code and previous site plan approvals, and therefore hereby approves the site plan. To have a motion for approval of this resolution?
So moved?
Move for approval by Ms. Strang. Do I have a second?
I second.
Second by Mr. Laflamme. Any discussion at all?
Yeah. There are many different uses that could go in this space. I think this is one of the less intense. It's not going to have a lot of employees. It's not like a convenience store where you've got people jockeying to go in for short term. So even though I still have great concerns about the parking along this area, I don't think this is going to have a major impact on that. And I think it's one of the better uses for the building.
No, and I agree. And as we stated at the last meeting, the parking is always a challenge down there, but the analysis has been done. And based on the previous analysis, there's no reason to have parking be an impact on this application. Any other comments? No? Okay. Hearing no comments, Ms. Bergamage, please call the roll.
Mr. Laflamme?
Aye.
Ms. Strang?
Aye.
Ms. Belowski?
Aye.
Ms. Gomes?
Aye.
Ms. Gold?
Aye.
Chairman Walsh?
Aye. Resolution's approved. So you're all set. Ms. Brenner? Yeah, congratulations and best of luck. And look forward to coming down and see you. Please do. All right. Thanks very much. No, thank you. Thank you very much. All right. All right, next up, we have, we're all done with new business, discussion items, and we have one new discussion item. That's 850 Oregon Ave, 875 Stark Street, and we have an application for a lot line adjustment that was included in your packet. All the information is in the packet. Oh, Laura's already got it pulled up. She's quick. All right. I mean, I took a look at it. I mean, it'd be nice if it was, straighten, it's a move toward the better of a regular shaped lot. So, so I don't see personally any concerns. I mean, that's my take on it. Is this Ray Smith, the highway superintendent?
Yeah, so, I was just speaking with Elena prior to this, prior to the meeting starting, that when Ray comes to present the application, he will need to disclose that he's a town employee, and he'll sign the town employee disclosure form. Apologize that that wasn't in the packet ahead of time. And I believe I was trying to pull up the map that Clark made because we were referencing trying to keep the lot square, but it doesn't actually matter. You can't really see it on the full screen, but you can probably see it in your packet. Even if you were to take the parallel line
Yeah.
and continue it parallel, it still leaves a little funky little nook behind
Exactly.
the lot on the other side. So I believe that him and the property owner that signed the application decided this made the most sense for them.
Yep.
But we did want to draw your attention to that part of the code because it's still not perfect.
Right, but it moves it toward the being better, but we can't get there is the bottom line. And I don't see, I mean, it is what it is, so I don't see any concern with it.
Yeah, and then the other thing that we wanted to know on this one is that there was an existing variance for the pole barn. It's not affected by the lot lane change. Yeah.
And no new area variances will be required
No
as a
new
result
area
of this
variances
change
would be
either.
required. Yeah.
Correct.
And I agree, this is definitely an improvement. And compared to some of the funky lots I know of in town, this is a pretty good one.
So any thoughts or concerns from the board at all? If not, I guess we could have a resolution.
Yeah, so we'll check in with him. His next step is he needs to have the formal survey, but as long as there's, no significant feedback from the board, we'll bring it back when it's ready with its formal survey for you guys to take action on.
Sounds great. Pretty straightforward. Okay, that's it for under discussion and reports. We have an agenda statement now for the project submittal timelines. If you take a look at your packet there, at least get the discussion started. Dave DiArpino has agreed to be the project lead on this. And then there's a one-page summary. I'm just trying to get there. So there we go, I got there. And I know that Clark's done some work on this, and I believe he has some more information too. He already started looking at what some of the other towns do. So I think the questions to consider, they're presented here. I'm assuming Clark put this together. For a Monday meeting, when would you like to receive the planning board meeting packet? I think that's the million-dollar question, really. I'll give my opinion. I mean, I know we've had a lot of times, it seems on a regular basis, we have to make changes to the resolutions, like to the conditions at the meeting. Obviously, if we had an opportunity before the weekend to take a look at that, we would have time to feed back to the planning department, some potential changes or suggestions to any of the conditions or changes to any of the resolutions. So that would mean getting the packet sometime earlier and then obviously taking a look at it, because we have to still look at it when we get it, in order, at least the project lead would need to look at it. And chairman always looks at it. I try to look at everything and then feed that back quickly so that if there's anything need to be changed, it could be changed before Friday issuance of the packet to the public. So for me, I mean, it would seem that it'd have to be at least Wednesday, the week before. Does that seem, does that work? It's really what works for you guys,
Well, what Clark and I were discussing is that really what will work for us is we'll do the timelines that we need to do the work, depending on when the board wants to receive the packet. But this is an Elena question. I think that if the packets were to be ready on Wednesday, we'd probably post them too. Or are you thinking that
I'm
we could
thinking
send
you'd
it to
send
the
out,
board?
I think you'd send out
Send
a
out like a
draft
draft?
resolution to
On
the project
Wednesday.
lead at a minimum and the chairman to take a look at. And then, if there's no comments or if you don't hear back,
Post
you
the
go with
packet
it.
on Friday.
That would be my thought. That's again, just a suggestion,
And
That makes sense, Laura. That's been what I do with the town board is I send it out
As a draft?
the Friday before as a draft. I mean, our meetings are on Tuesday, so it falls a little bit different here, but I send it out as a draft and ask that all comments be to me within a 24-hour period of time before the meeting so I can finalize it and post it.
Okay, good. Then that works. So we could then build our timelines based on a packet being finished on Wednesday.
Yeah, or at least a
Draft
a
packet.
draft resolutions being finished, or maybe not the whole packet, but anything that we need to take action on, I think is the priority, right? So-
Yeah, but like what Clark and I were saying is then, because we still need, I mean, essentially the same amount of time, but we're getting the packet out 2 days earlier, that shifts that 10 days that we need things submitted by from a Friday to a Wednesday for
Yep.
people. Yeah.
Yeah, you need your time. And then the other question, I think we talked about this, because this come up a couple of times recently, how would we handle, submittals after the submission date? I think the previous discussion we had is that we'd allowed the applicant, you wouldn't update the packet and change anything that was presented to the public. If there was an email, you could forward it, but the planning board wouldn't have the responsibility of actually getting to it because they may not be able to get to it because most of the members of the planning board work. And so the applicant would be able to come in and talk about what they sent, but no action would be taken on anything that they sent in late. So we wouldn't be able to utilize that for, say, a resolution or for any decision-making because people may not have an opportunity to take a look at it.
I have a slightly different take on that, based on what previous planners have done and the fact that I didn't see anything in the code that really gave us a major role in determining this timeline, other than indicating that we do need information in advance of the meetings and things like that. But I think sometimes something's out there and what we need is just one little piece of information. If that comes in, the planning office can deal with it. I have no problem with them adding in or dealing with it.
Yeah,
I don't want to push projects back because of a technicality and new rules.
Yeah.
I'd like to see some flexibility based on what the planning office is able to deal with and based on the logic behind it. And that's the way we did operate for years.
Well, the only concern I have there is that if you have a package, an agenda statement and information that goes out to the public doesn't have an opportunity, if something comes in late either, to take a look at it or comment on it.
Yeah, and I know David DiArpino was a little, like, it was hard for him if some people had gotten the email, but he was working and couldn't get the email. And
Exactly.
then some people were discussing information that he felt caught off guard by, which is understandable. And so that makes it difficult for some members to fully participate if they're not able to get
Right,
to it.
exactly. Yep.
But if we're waiting for the TD to sign off on one specific thing, I can't see holding the project back a whole cycle because that information came in an hour late.
Well, could we
That's the
have
kind
some
of
kind
thing
of
that bothers
caveat
me.
to kind of give the planning office the ability to make a value judgment there?
Well,
Maybe.
The concern, though, is if the rule is not hard and fast.
exactly.
Well,
We have a lot of recurring applicants, right? And as soon as you give people that room, I think you're going to see abuse of it.
I agree with both comments. I would add, though, I think the benchmarking is the way to go. I really don't want to look as though we're a little harder to do or to work with, or it takes too long. I want to make sure that we're kind of consistent with others, because those same developers are also
Yeah.
kind of those.
I'll give you a good example tonight, right? General Electric. So we haven't heard back from the TDE, right? But we just called for a resolution.
Right.
So the resolution is going to have conditions, those are to your point, that are going to address that. So we're not holding it up, for actually, being proactive here. So I think that
Sometimes we
because
have.
with a resolution, we can condition, that either the planning department or a town designated engineer or somebody sign off, we can condition that, and we've had that flexibility. We've been doing that all along, so I don't see a problem.
and I think you missed my first point, which is I don't know that the board actually has a role in determining the process other than meeting our needs to have the information in time for the meeting. I think the internal operations of the planning department aren't our domain.
Well, for getting the information in
And
advance,
getting
it is.
information to us. But yeah,
So that drives their schedule there. The other towns all have, well, not all of them, but as far as, I know Clark looked into this, they have hard dates, right, where you have to have your submissions in by. And I think once you do that, so if the planning department picks those dates, what'll happen is just a matter of time, the applicants will adapt, and that'll be the norm,
It may be able to cause more efficiency. on the
Exactly.
back end, right?
I would just speak to that because I actually, I sit on a board where that is the case. And there are research projects that there's a line, we actually require a month in advance. And at first it was a little bit of an adjustment period, but now they get them in well ahead of time because they do not want to adhere to that delay. So I think, just to draw upon that experience, I think that will be
They
the
will
case.
adapt.
Yeah.
Yep. So as we go forward, I don't know, planning department obviously can think about that. But I know Clark, I believe you've already done some looking at maybe Half Moon or Clifton Park on what the dates of submission for them. So I've seen an email several months ago that you were working on that. Maybe we just get that out to the board and see if that makes sense, for you guys and whether you think that's smart for the planning department,
Sure, we can send that out, sure.
Yeah,
I think one of the things we did see is that there's usually, the difficult thing with this is it's hard to anticipate the load at the time. You may have just a couple projects or you may have a whole bunch. So there's usually a little wiggle room that allows the planning board or the planning office to alter the dates of what goes on the agenda as well, just for unforeseen circumstances.
Yeah.
But we can look at all that stuff.
No, especially if, like you said, if it's a heavy load, it's actually going to benefit, I think the planning office, because there'd be a drop dead date and either they get it in or they don't. And that date should give you enough time to be able to update the agenda statement and do whatever work you need to do in your office, So it's whatever you think is right. But maybe just take a look or what you've already done, put that out to the board or update the agenda statement to include, a couple of examples of what somebody else is doing. I think we'll be in good shape.
Sure. I'd personally like to reach out, and Laura, maybe you have some contacts to look at. Is there any general planning association guideline on some of this too? I would be interested in that.
Yeah, we could check because we're members of the New York State Planning Federation. And I know Sarah just took some of their training. And also the American Planning Association.
All right.
Great.
So as we go forward, just take the comments tonight, Laura, maybe update the agenda statement or Clark, and then we'll just, keep it on the,
Yeah, well, now we can really maybe work on some hard things because hard kind of dates, proposals to look at, because if we'll do the draft packet on Wednesday, we can see what that will look like
Yeah.
with what some of the other municipalities' timelines were and our timelines and, work from that.
and again, if you don't have the whole packet for Wednesday, as long as you have anything that we need to take action on, I think that's should always be the priority.
Oh, you know what else I was going to ask? So we have a SWIP for GE, which I think I did not put in the packet because it's like 300 pages long.
I did not, thank you.
The issue
Yeah,
that I
thank you.
have is if I put a little bit of the SWIP in, it always seems like somebody needs a page that I didn't put in. And if I put in all of it, I think it's actually sometimes hard to find the next agenda item because you're scrolling through like 150 pages of hydrographs.
Isn't that what executive summaries are for?
Yeah, but like SWIPs don't have executives. Well, I guess they sort of do. Yeah, I could put in the SWIPs without any of the appendices, and it's smaller. But I was almost wondering if maybe we could somehow put SWIPs on our drive or something, so that we didn't even have to have them all in our packet. I don't know
Yeah, you
what to
could,
do about the SWIPs because I know that some of you really like to look at them and they have very valuable information, and I would like for anybody from the public who wants to see them to be able to see them too. But I think that it can be actually hard for people who are trying to find a particular item in the packet when we put them directly in the packet.
well, one thing you could do, Laura, is, just in the agenda statement, state that there is a SWIP, the SWIP is available, and that way, then when the public reads the agenda statement,
If they wanted to,
if
could
they
reach
want
out
it,
to us.
please contact the planning office or you give them access to the document.
Can you be a separate document with a link? So you
Or-
don't have to unload the whole thing?
We could put like SWIPs on our website or something. I don't know. I was trying to decide like what to do.
Yeah.
Because there are some projects we've had in the past where they're like some of the residents or
We're
neighbors
reading
were,
the SWIPs.
yeah, because they're
Absolutely.
engineers themselves.
Yeah.
They want to see it,
Yeah, the Polsinelli one and
Yep.
the one we just
Row
finished.
Road people.
Yeah, the Row Road and
Yeah.
the Seneca Road. People were really reading those.
So as long
Well,
as they know
we
there
can
is
take
one.
We can take a look tomorrow too, because normally the first 7 or 8 pages of a stormwater management report are a nice summary. So maybe there's something similar on the full SWIP. where we can do the summary and, as you guys are mentioning, refer people to the full SWIP somewhere.
Yeah. Or, yeah, instead of having all the HydroCAD calculations,
Right.
just have the, like you said, the executive summary and say, if you need more information, contact the planning office or something like that.
Yeah, like I don't want the information to be like hidden, but I also don't want it to cloud like sort of important information later on in the meeting too.
Yeah. And when we're downloading the documents as it is,
It's
it
so
could take a while.
big.
Yeah.
Yes, yes.
My computer. Broughton.
So, yeah, if there's a 300-page SWIP, it's really going to increase that time. And most of us don't need all the detail.
No, I mean we mostly rely on the TDE to review the SWIP and check the hydrographs for us. Like I'm not
Yeah, I'm not
really
gonna argue
asking any of you
5 points
guys to
with them.
read that stuff, but I'm certainly not, holding it back from you if you want to read it.
I can follow the engineering discussion, but I'm not an engineer and I'm not going to argue over it.
Okay. Anything else on this project submittal timelines for tonight? Anybody? No? Okay, Laura or Clark, do you have anything else on the reports you want to share with us?
No, we have a few more short projects for next meeting. I believe some tenant changes or things that have been talked about. We expect some applications on them.
If you have anything, please email me what you got so we can put together the update for the Economic Development Committee meeting this week, okay?
Sure, sure.
I appreciate that.
And I have one question about the agendas. In days past, the project lead used to be noted. Could we go back to that?
No, wait, what?
The project lead used to be noted with the project on the agenda.
Oh yeah, they are if we have one.
Yeah, usually they are, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, Dave
We
Giappino's down, we didn't
we've
have
had
anybody.
a fair number of projects go through actually without a project lead.
Exactly.
Okay, maybe that's it. 'cause
No,
I-
we
I
had
know
Dave
I'm not seeing it
Giappino
very
down, the other
often.
Oh
projects.
no,
tonight,
if we
didn't
have a
one.
project lead, we put it right in there.
So if
Okay.
somebody wants to be project lead for the lot line adjustment, Ray Smith, you can always volunteer. We'll put your name
All
down. Who's right there? Ms. Gold? Okay.
I've been in that area, yeah.
Okay. Ms. Gold will take the lot line adjustment for Oregon and Stark Ave. All right. How about the board? Any questions or comments for anybody? No? Trish, anything? All right. Okay, now I'll ask for a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Chairman.
Move for adjournment by Mr. Latham, seconded by Ms. Gold. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Thank you, everybody. Quick night. Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thanks, Clark.
Have a good night.
Yeah.
If you're going to do research, I'd be curious how many planning boards actually get involved in setting time schedules.
Oh, I don't think they do.
I don't think they do.
No, they
I
don't.
don't think they should. Which is what I was trying to get across before. Yeah, and that's where I was headed. Because you've got other things you've got to balance